The last thing most of us want is to feel behind the curve when the markets open on Monday. That's why every week I take time to break down exactly what's moving the market, the top trade setups that I'm watching going into the week, and the strategies that I'm using that are working right now so that you can approach the market with clarity, with confidence, and so that you can have a plan. If you want to master trading, you want to build real financial freedom on your trading journey and do it all with a community that shares your values, you're in the right place. I'm Derek. I run something called the Legacy Profits Club, and I'm here to help you cut through the noise and make consistent income through the markets. Before we dive in, I want to encourage you to go ahead and like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Now, let's jump into some market prep for this week. All right, so for the past few weeks, you can see that we have been kind of in this area here on the S&P 500 where we have been consolidating between this 626 level and right down here about 617. So this is the area that we have been consolidating in. We have broken out of it a couple of different times, but we keep kind of slapping right back into it. But one of the things I want you to notice is when we broke out on Thursday of this week, we closed outside of this range. And so now it looks like, have had a support and resistance flip. This once resistance of this range that we've been consolidating in for quite a while now, we've broken out of, and it is currently using that as a support level. So as long as we stay above this support level, I lean pretty bullish on the market. As a matter of fact, there's a saying out there, and that is that the longer the consolidation, the bigger the move. And you can see that we've had a couple of solid weeks of consolidation inside this range. And so I would be really, really surprised if we don't climb higher from here. However, if we do break back below into this range, below around 626.75 or so, and we can't get back above it, then we're right back in the range where we started. Another thing that I like to look at when I'm looking at the overall markets is I like to look at the trend. I like to look at the higher highs and the higher lows of the trend. And you can see that we're continuing to put in higher highs and higher lows. And the most recent higher low right here is around 591.72 or so. So as long as we stay above this level right here that I've just marked on the chart, then my bias, even if we don't head higher this week, remains bullish. Where is the line in the sand that I start to question my bullish bias? It is a close below this level right here, because now we will have no longer made a higher low on the chart. All right, so that's kind of my thoughts on SPY. Let's take a look at QQQ, and you can see that we're looking at a very, very similar chart here. We've got this range from here to about right here. And the same thing, we've broken out of that range. We have held above it. We were able to test it and close above it on Friday. So it's looking again like a support and resistance flip. In other words, this once resistance right here is now a support. So as long as we hold above this level here of 560.82, it looks very, very similar to the SPY chart, and I wouldn't be surprised to see us climb higher. My overall bullish bias is until we break below this level right here at 523.76. We close below that, then I start to rethink the thesis. But anything between where we are now and that most recent higher low is just normal market consolidation and nothing for me to worry about. So overall, my bias is fairly bullish going into this week because we're in a bull market and we're in an uptrending market. We are putting in higher highs, we're putting in higher lows, and that hasn't changed yet, even after the consolidation that we've had. Now, this week, I have no idea where the market's going to head as far as like what's ahead, but what I do know is this, is I know that the Fed speakers are on a blackout, so they're not really talking this week. There's not a lot of potential market moving data coming out, so unless there's some surprise news that comes out, some Trump headlines or something like that, there's not a lot going on that really is something that is going to, in my opinion, move the market with conviction. And so I will be looking primarily at stocks in play this week as opposed to looking at the index funds in general. As always, that can change with news and headlines and stuff like that. But just based on what's on the calendar to come out this week, there's not really a whole lot. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see some indecision in the market until we get some of these big tech earnings that are coming in later this week. But most of my focus this week is going to be on individual names, tech earnings, stuff like that. I do want to give you a couple of trade ideas going into this week that are on my radar. The first of these is RF here. Regions Financial, they had, as you can see, a pretty decent sized gap up on Friday. And this not only gapped up, it closed very strong. So we gapped up and closed in the high end of the range from Friday, which is always something that I like to see if I'm interested in a stock. Let's talk about why this happened. Because not only are we in an uptrend, but we gapped up in the middle of this uptrend. Why is that? Well, they had an earnings and revenue beat. Surprised people, which was an exciting thing. People kind of rushed in the next day when that happened. And then the other thing that happened is they raised their dividend. And they're already, as of this weekend, they've got some people already calling for like raised price targets and stuff like that. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see more of those come out this week. That usually happens after people have good earnings reports. And so just based on the price action from Friday and the catalyst behind that price action, I would not be surprised at all to see this break out sometime in the first half of this week, Monday or Tuesday. Sometimes after a gap up like that, you'll get some consolidation for a day or two as, price just kind of has to settle for a little bit, probably inside this range here. Sometimes you don't have consolidation at all and it just takes off first thing on Monday. But my guess is sometime before Wednesday, we would potentially, I would be looking to potentially play breakouts to the upside of this sometime in the first half of this week. Perhaps after some consolidation, but sometime in the next 2 or 3 days. If I were looking to play this a particular way, I would use a bread and butter breakout trade. That is my number one strategy that I use all of the time to bring regular money in from the markets. And I teach that for free, not only on this channel, but I have a bread and butter breakout cheat sheet that's yours absolutely for free at the link in this video description. You can go there, you can sign up for my email, and you can get that cheat sheet so you can learn how to trade this yourself. You can keep it in front of you and know exactly how to trade this. But the basic idea is I'm going to be watching the opening range over the next few days to see if we can kind of break out of this high and continue higher and catch a trend day sometime in the first half of this week. So Regions Financial is on my radar this week because of that. Really high volume, as you can see from this candle here, 240% relative volume, so much higher volume than a normal trading day. Closed high, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this continue to climb higher. The other thing that I want to put on your radar is IBIT. All right, this is a Bitcoin ETF, and Bitcoin, as you know, has been climbing after consolidating. It had a pretty decent run last week, or for the last couple of weeks actually, and it has consolidated over the weekend. And since this is an ETF that tracks Bitcoin, I would be interested in perhaps taking a dip entry on this one. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here, I'm going to throw up my charts here, and you can see that for a while now, we have been trading above the 5 SMA. That's this yellow line here. And then we finally, on Friday, got a dip down and closed below the 5-period simple moving average. And so a lot of times when something's trending and I want to hop on the right side of a trend, I wait for a move like that where we dip below the 5-period simple moving average, and I jump on in that one. And this is a trade that I call the 5 SMA rebound. I also have a video about how to trade that particular setup as well in my free course that you can find here on the channel, so go and check that out. But IBIT will be one that I'm watching. It's on kind of breakout watch for me as well for this week. Other than that, I'm looking at a lot. I'll be looking at the earnings names every day. I'll be looking for ones that had triple beats or double beats. In other words, earnings and revenue beats. Preferably, they raise guidance as well. And maybe price doesn't react the way that I think it should in the after hours or in the pre-market. I'll be watching to see what happens after the open. Those will be a lot of my stocks in play for the week this week, unless there's some big market moving news that comes out that I wasn't anticipating. So that's how I'm playing the week. Those are a couple of trade ideas for you. If you found this breakdown helpful, if you want more practical trade ideas, you want weekly education, you want that stuff delivered straight to your inbox, go and subscribe to my free newsletter at the link in the description of my channel and in the description of this video. You're going to get my top setups each week. You're going to get education, market analysis, strategies every single week that you're not going to find anywhere else. The link is in the description below. Don't miss out. Equip yourself for success. Join our growing community today, and I'll see you again with another video soon.